Oh, the world of form. It's a beautiful thing. But, I have been talking about a lot of darker content lately, and that seems to be something that the Spirit's really calling me to speak on more and more because it's um, something that I ran into extreme resistance with. And as certain darker content seemed to surface in the experience and wanted to be revealed or pointed out to be healed and forgiven, I still, even being very adept at certain transmutative practices and forgiveness and the application of, and knowing all of the advanced metaphysical understandings, there was still extreme resistance in regards to this. I got my little skull guy here, but he's not creepy though. He's got, or she, I don't know. I don't know what it is. He's got the roses on the head and coming out the mouth, so he's cute. It's cute. It's not death. There's no death. But there is what seems to be associated with that in certain practices, and things, karmic ties and associations that we may have that surface into our experience in one way or another. Now, this can come up in a lot of ways, and certainly there's no general rule of thumb for how this is going to surface in one's experience. And you may or may not go through the things that other people go through. I hope, I would like for people not to, necessarily face certain things that I've faced and have arisen in my experience, as far as like the depth of the traumatic energetic and emotional impressions, karmic impressions that have surfaced into one's experience, psychological impressions. And a lot of these for me were not really associated with this lifetime. And this gets very obscure. It gets very obscure, and the egoic mind can try to latch hold and look to figure it out. And this wanting to figure it out, or wanting to know, look at and dissect it more, like go into the detail in the past, this can be a form of resistance in itself. I ran into a lot of that as well, like thinking like, okay, well, I need to see this. I need to know like what lifetime this was associated with. I want to know like all the story and the history and everything. And even coming from certain teachers and teachings and understandings and practices that I had, this still, like, I knew better. In a sense, I knew better than thinking and knowing like that, that was going to help in a way. Yet the mind still, there's such excitement and specialness that we can get enraptured in that. And this is where the difference between the spiritual and the supernatural is important, because you don't need to dive into all of the supernatural to apply the spiritual. The spirit, the spiritual is, spirit is. Yeah, it doesn't, that is what is. So it takes care of all the illusion, because again, the supernatural in the past life, you're just dealing with more illusion. And just because illusion is surfacing in a different way doesn't give it any more credence. Yet the infatuation with the egoic mind and this is really where the spiritual ego identity tries to get involved and come in and wants to keep and maintain that level of specialness and create, an even specialer identity on top of this. Like, okay, oh, well now, we're someone that is seeing this and is having insight on this level, and I can, if I can, look at this and get a hold of this, I can, talk about it and or figure it out or become more advanced or whatever. I mean, it doesn't even have to have any type of, like, the ego is insane in that sense. So it doesn't really have have to have a rhyme or reason in that sense. So though certainly it does seem to ascribe certain ones with. But that's a trap. That's a trick. That's a subtle form of delay and resistance in itself, because it's not really, it's not relevant in that sense. What's relevant is always here in the immediacy, the now, the present. And you're not meant to go back into go back into a past. You don't have to go back into a past life or these past experiences or energies or depth or emotions in that way to figure them out, to see them, to process them. That is absolutely not the case. It's not relevant in that way. All you have to do is be willing to look on it, be willing to allow that, and however that it is arising in the immediacy of your actual experience now. Like what is your experience? Your experience is only ever right here, right now. Anything outside of that is just a mentation, an attempt to pull out of keep one out of truth. And given you can try to be outside of truth in the here and now, but that's only through ascribing the reality to ascribing reality to falsity, or ascribing falsity to reality. I said that right. But and that's always through these ideas of misidentification, and misidentification is always perpetuated based off of a past wrong learning of self. So this is merely more of that. It's more of just what was a misidentification on that level. Now, sure, could there have been some of those lives where there was higher advanced recognition and stuff going on, and there was more of a strong recognition in reality and in truth and in established connection? Yes, we've likely, anybody that's interested in this type of material and is listening to this talk has probably had past lives where you've been an advanced soul, an advanced initiate, and where you've had some degree of source awareness and connection that's maintained in that experience. Perhaps even full transcendence and enlightenment, whatever on whatever level, because of course there's many levels of recognition and ways that can unfold in one's experience. But this is not necessary to the now. This is not necessary or always applicable, or usually ever applicable for this lifetime. Now, do we have to go in and face some of these things? Yes, this is again where I said there's no like one size fits all type thing. There's no general rule of thumb, because some people, there may be resistance to going in and really seeing all that stuff, and you may have to be, you may be shown you may be called and be guided to go in and look at these things and face these things and resolve these things and see clearly into these lives. But that is always going to be a kind of spontaneous, synchronistic thing in the immediacy of the experience. That's not something that one has to really ever try to bring about, try to go into. And a lot of times, I find a lot of people that want to I myself kind of got into that as well, wanting to prematurely go into that, kind of explore that. And that's just out of that sense of specialness. And there's nothing wrong with that. That happens. And if there's an interest there and a guidance there, then there is. But again, like I said, that can show up more times than not as a sense of delay. I remember Dr. David R. Hawkins, he used to say, people, he had the kinesiology technique, and people like to come to him and ask, like, okay, was I so-and-so in this life, and da-da-da-da-da, and then, and he just got to the point where, he would say, like, hey, it's, even if you were, like, it's not going to help you. It's not going to, that's not going to help. It's not, knowing that is not going to help, because you're here now, because, and I find it funny too. It's humorous that people are always, whenever this happens, it's always referential to being somebody like super special and like a good guy in past life. Very rarely is anybody like some bad person. And even in like the like New Age communities with like star seeds and all that, everybody's here. Everybody's this like higher light being from these beautiful planetary systems that are ascended beings, and they're just here. They just came here to be of service and to be of help. Like nobody, what happened to all the fallen angelic beings? Like nobody's them, or nobody's them being here rehabilitated. Nobody wants to acknowledge that and look at that and admit that. So it's really kind of funny, when you see that and look at that. It's kind of funny. And I've, again, one way or another, it's not going to help. I've had some stuff looking into that potential as well. And so it's like that. Either one is a sense of specialness. So it doesn't matter, because we are here now. We're here to face whatever is arising in this experience. We're bringing it to source now. We're bringing it back to love now. We're forgiving it now. We're giving it to the Spirit, and being willing to look at these things differently. And a lot is arising in the field right now surrounding this content. You've got all these conspiracies that are kind of coming to the forefront. You've got different things that are being revealed, and different levels of insight on this. So again, this is not applicable across the board to everybody, because if you don't see this type of stuff, you don't see this type of stuff. If you're not being shown that, and you're not being guided in your own experience to where this is coming up to be witnessed and healed and looked at, then it's likely not for you. It's likely not going to be helpful for you to go into that until you're called, and maybe you aren't called to look at that. Like some people are just called to hold and balance the light and hold a place of love and being, and maintain that. And others are here to do that as well, but to do that, to look at the darkness more so as it arises and bring that to light. And having that you could say multicolored type integration, to where it's all being filtered. You can think of it as like the light prism. There's that multifaceted color spectrum of rays, and some are more akin and more called to just be in certain rays, and others are more gonna see the scope of the broad spectrum. Others are gonna see what seems to be the darker spectrum, and integrate those back into the pure source light. And that's not, there's no right or wrong there. And this is where if you get involved in certain teachings that cling to one or the other, you may have to forgive that. You may have to process that, and allow the experience to spontaneously shift into whatever one's being called to in a given time. And be willing to face that as it arises, and to let it go as it falls away, and to not cling to one or the other. That whole be like water, and be willing to embrace whatever seems to be the stable still waters, and whatever seems to be the rocky momentous chaos. And it is and seeing that it is all unified. It is all the same, in the sense that it all comes from the one source, the one true creator, and none of it is threatened by love. None of it changes the reality of what you are, what truth is, what reality is, what the Christ mind is, what we all are in one. And also to see that there are still, in this vast presentation of what still seems to be this 3D reality that we're all sharing in, there are those that are still operating and choosing to operate in different spectrums. There are those that are unconsciously sucked into different spectrums. And that in itself is still a free will choice in and of itself, though you may see at another level that there's beings that are operating and manipulating people, and beings that they can't see they're being manipulated, and we just hold that all in love light, because you can get caught up into this wanting to rescue, wanting to save, and just that's a new sense of specialness. So it's always just seeing the light, seeing the love, seeing the compassion, and not trying to go or not go where we're called to go, or where we're not called to go in that sense. And be that sword of truth, that light of awareness, the light of the world that cuts it all asunder and brings it all back in to where it never truly left, because that's where we all reside. The reality has not changed just because the seeming presentation seems to change. And just because maybe you seem to operate in aspects of the spectrum for a long time, I mean, again, you can get caught up and be, I say caught up, and you can actually, be called to be in these certain spaces or places or, spectrums of light for longer durations than others. And then it can be jarring when it's like, oh, well, now I'm like, oh, I've been over here, I'm called to like be over here and here. It's that balance. That balance is huge. That's one of the going back to the hermetic principles, is finding that balance and being able to be that, and not, because we can't just cling to one end of the spectrum and think that we're done, think that we've reached this reality point, yet we still have tremendous resistance and unhealed stuff when we seem to float over here. You're not going to fake that. You're not going to cling to premature states of purification. And you're also, you're not going to stay in infinite phases of purification as well, and darkness, and this denser material that's surfacing. Both are equally detrimental in a sense. This wanting to cling to light and bliss and just that while informed, versus wanting to just perpetually look and face and battle the underworld and clear out shadow work, and it's all the same. So that it's all the same in that sense, and we don't need to cling. We can flow with it as it comes up. And I found that this is truly the middle way of being able to be with what arises and have that faith in the as the Course calls it, the interlocking chain of forgiveness, and knowing that the Spirit has it, and you need do nothing. You just need to have that little willingness to be willing to look on whatever arises in your experience. Face it without that judgment. Drop all the resistance as it arises, because it's not like, say, face it without judgment. It's not like the judgment's not going to be there. It's not like the judgment's not going to be arising in one's experience. Yeah, that's what's coming up to be forgiven, is the judgments and resistance. If you didn't have the judgment and resistance to it, you wouldn't have it would have been processed out already. You wouldn't have this arising in one's field for forgiveness in the first place. So this is a very limited belief, and I talk about this because, like I said, I myself have went through this, and I found that it can be sticky. It can be very, very sticky and confusing to navigate, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. We can come back to that, and we can really be willing to face that, and we can step into this place of authority and responsibility, and wanting, not in those words, like they tend to have a negative connotation. Those two words that I just said, authority and responsibility. That was that Spider-Man thing, that quote, with great power comes great responsibility. We tend to not want that responsibility because we think we can hide out and have a little bit of comfort and safety and from not having full responsibility. But that's a lie. That's a lie. We have to step into that place of full ownership and full responsibility to be able to face and own our experience, and everything that's arising subjectively in our experience. And that's everything. That's the whole scope. That's the whole world. This whole world is a presentation of your mind and of your unhealed mind. And so all these little judgments, all these projections, whether it's from your presented it of yourself, of something from the past, or whether it's presented as something somebody else is doing out there in the world, or as other on other realms, or in the past, or possible fears of, future timelines. And all this stuff is the same, guys. It's all the same. And energetically, it's just showing up as whatever is arising energetically and emotionally in your field, in your body, on whatever level. Again, that can change depending upon one's awareness and recognition. It can show up very dense, and that can oscillate too. So if we're like, used to being in this free, space of pure awareness, and just, having this aloof, energy causal body that's all like in the bliss light, and then it comes back into this dense presentation and, emotional surfacing within the body. There's resistance to that, because if you're clinging to just that, and then it's like, what is this? Something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. What's that whole presentation of wrongness is the falsity. If you want to say what's wrong, that's what's wrong. And so it's always just coming back to the simple truth of your reality, and that ownership and responsibility for what's arising in your reality, to come back to forgiveness, to come back to responsibility, the responsibility for sight that you have in your mind, and take ownership, take full responsibility, and be with that. Allow that to be healed. Like I was going to say, heal that, but like you're not. That's we have all these. Again, that's where the spiritual ego loves to get involved, and like it comes back into like, oh yeah, I got to heal this. You're not what's healing that. It's just through the the seeing that nothing really needs to be healed, that you're already perfectly safe, perfectly at home, perfectly at peace. Though the presentation is one that proposes otherwise, you're giving that false presentation over to the Spirit to be forgiven, to be healed. The Spirit does the forgiveness. The Spirit does that. The Holy Spirit, your higher self, however you want to call that. Like if it's not coming back onto you in the sense of like a limited individual that's small and alone and has messed up, and now I've got to forgive this, and oh my God, no, that's really actually just forgiveness to destroy. That's what's made it real, and is a limitation in itself. So I don't that can get kind of confusing. I don't want to really keep going too much into that, because that's a part of it, the ebb and flow, and there is that transition oftentimes out of seeing where we were caught in these stages of forgiveness to destroy, of making it real, because then when we're embarking upon this sense of like needing to conquer the world, needing to save the world, and having to heal this and having to do that, and it's that can still very much be coming from that forgiveness to destroy and making it real in the first place, and is getting very involved in the linear domain of time and making that real and something to change on that level, and perpetuating that illusion. And we're just simply called to be here right now, to be with whatever's arising, to come back to that right here, right now. Very simple, the holy instant. That's it. That's it. So that's always right here available. So there's not a lot that one needs to do other than be with what's arising. And this is where the resistance comes from, because sometimes what's arising is what's there for forgiveness. And then the temptation is to go into different forms of distraction and delay on whatever layers that they come up. And again, like I was talking about, that's whether that's trying to figure it out, or look too deep into stuff, or go back into the past, or get this done for the future, and or just delay because I'm trying to create something right here now to make the future better, and I don't have time to deal with this right now. So many, the whole world is set up for delay. The whole world is set up to keep this this energy unconscious, to keep it either repressed or suppressed, out of sight, yet not out of mind, because it's nothing can ever be out of mind. It's just always there recycling. But there's always, the Spirit is always using everything to reorchestrate and allow everything to resurface in the perfection of the time that it needs to be. All right, so like time in itself is not an enemy. Time in itself is not wrong. It's not bad. It's very neutral, depending on what you're using it for. Are you using it for delay in the ego and to, stay separate from God? Or are you using it for forgiveness, for the Spirit, and to return or recognize or remember union with God and source and perfection now? That's it. That's always the simple choice. What teacher are we choosing? What would we teach ourselves? So what would we learn? I would like to learn the truth. I would like to teach the truth. So that's why I share this stuff. I hope that helps. If anybody's got any questions, or I know that's kind of a little bit all over the place, but I believe that covered the gist of it and made sense. So I'll take it at that and let the Spirit work the rest. As always, peace and love. Thank you. Bye.